right, so let's do the intro. Black historical fiction sits at the intersection of documentation, resistance, and cultural memory. It asks difficult questions: who gets remembered, who gets romanticized, and who gets erased. Today's guest, Joan Vassar, contributes to this tradition by writing narratives that center African American emotion, relational life across time. As a New York native and graduate of the High School of Graphic Communication Arts, Jones' background in communication and analytical systems informs her storytelling precision. While she works professionally as a software analyst, her creative work demonstrates deep emotional literacy and historical sensitivity. Through works like the Black series, the Sweet series, Jones explores themes of liberation, autonomy, identity, and the complexities of Black intimacy across historical eras. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. That's a hell of an introduction. I'm like, who is she?
You, you, it's you, lady. That is you. So, all right, let's dive into these questions. So, how do you define historical fiction within the context of Black cultural storytelling?
Wow. Hmm. I think historical fiction is important because um, for a long time in my reading experience, Black historical fiction was considered a white genre.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Miss Beverly Jenkins kicked the door open on that for a lot of people. I don't even think I'd be here without her. She made it possible because before I read any of her books, I was not interested, and she just told good stories. And so I guess it's important not just for the documentation of it, but I think that it's important that we understand that historical fiction as it pertains to this country is more than just white history.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's true. Because as of late, they wanted to go back white. Do you see historical fiction as a form of cultural preservation?
I think it can be. I think it can be all things. It can be entertaining, it
Mm-hmm.
could be sad, and it can be informative. It could be romantic. And I have to laugh because I sometimes see videos and people will say things like, I don't want to read a romance that, has slaves having sex. I'm looking around, it's 2026. We still having sex and we ain't quite out of slavery.
Right. What are you talking about? Oh God. Ooh, child, that's a whole different subject.
It really
Cause,
is. It
cause,
really is.
woo, I,
I
I,
mean,
I, I'm
and I
telling you,
mean
that slave
it.
syndrome that people be going through.
I think if we wait for equality, we would be extinguished. And I think it speaks to Black people's ability to just be in love,
Mm,
understanding what's going on around them.
yeah, yeah. It's
Sometimes we need that. We need to human touch. We need each other. And the atrocities that go on around us should bring us closer together, intimately,
mm,
in terms of friendship, in terms of family, but also
mm,
sexually.
yeah,
We need that healing. And so I think it can be all things.
yeah. Because I always say that Martin had a dream, and we
Yeah.
are still trying to fucking wake up. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that.
So, how do you balance historical accuracy with emotional truth?
uh, what I do is my method, and it may be different for other writers, but my method is I look at the story first. What do I intend to write? What do I intend to bring across? What do I intend for the characters to be? How I intend for them to connect with myself and the
Mm,
readers. And once I do that, I pick an era.
Mm.
I don't start with the era first. I figure out what the story is because the story that I'm telling can fit in any era.
Yes.
So then once I figure out what the story is gonna be, and I pick an era, then I go to that era and I look around for the facts of that era. And
Mhm.
strangely enough, I want to also add this as part of this question. A lot of people think that historical fiction writers only do a lot of research, but I promise you, people who write contemporary do a lot of research
Yes.
because it is very possible for the world around you to pass you by. So, in order for you to figure out what that person does for a living, who they are, all
Mm.
of those things, I wrote a book from the 80s. And I grew up in the 80s, but remember, I was a kid. So I had to go back to the 80s and actually look around at the things I wouldn't have seen as a kid in order to get the story right. So, writing in general is a historical fiction endeavor, no matter what period you write in, because you have to get it accurate, unless you're writing fantasy or something, right? All
Yeah.
of that comes into play. Right, my wife Alexandria House, she she writes contemporary,
Mm.
but I gotta tell you, she and I do about the same amount of research.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
mean, I write paranormal romance with
Mhm.
fantasy erotica. I have to do so. I tell you, you
Absolutely.
have to do so much, even if that's just a made up world. The world building is still research. It's a lot
Yes.
of research. I have
Yes.
sticky notes all over my wall right here of research.
Yes. And it just really depends because let's say I write a story about mermaids, I still got
Mhm.
to talk about what happens when they come up out of the water.
Exactly.
So that's all of the things that come into play. So once I pick a period, then
Hmm.
I figure out what happened. I pick a particular time. Also, a lot of people think I write historical fiction to teach people. What I have found is that I'm uneducated about this country. And
Mm.
through historical fiction writing, I have learned a lot that I did not learn in school. Yeah.
Oh, please
Yeah.
elaborate. Elaborate.
Let me tell you, I think I was in fourth grade before I realized, before when I saw Roots, I think I was in fourth grade before I realized the whole slavery thing.
Mm.
Because my family came from the South and did not want to talk about those things.
Mm.
Not with the little people. So when I was in fourth grade and Alex Haley's Roots came out, that was a game changer for me. Um, and a lot of people don't realize I was in my late 30s, early 40s when I realized who Nat Turner was. I have had to actually sit down and educate myself. And so a lot of people think she writes these stories to educate people, but I'm actually sharing with you what I have learned.
Mm. Damn. Okay. Shit. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Because when people read the work, they actually send me new tips. Did you know this? And the next thing you know, I fell down another rabbit hole.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
So okay. So how has Black historical fiction evolved in the last, I say, 20, 30 years?
Oh, that's a good question because when I started reading historical fiction, there was not a lot going on in the way. In fact, I think the first book I read by Beverly Jenkins, it was she only had one book out, and it was through a self-publishing company. And I remember being overjoyed to find that book. And um, so over the years, not just historically, but contemporary, there's not been a lot of, I read romance, and there's just not been a lot of romance, period, that has been Black.
Mm.
And if I have to say, I'm going to be 58 in May. I am absolutely impressed with the young women who have been out there independently putting their books out and not waiting for anyone and just doing the damn thing. I have been overly impressed with young Black writers, both male and female, because when I was growing up, there was nothing to choose from.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, Babysitters Club and all.
Yeah,
Yeah. Those scholastic book fairs was not for us.
right. So that is something that I had to appreciate. And interestingly enough, while I was writing the Black series, I still thought I was out there alone until Jacoby Diem read the Black series, and this whole world opened up of all these Black women who write and read, and who are
Mhm.
out here loving romance too. So I think they opened the door and showed me some things, because up until that point, I don't think I understand. Here's another thing I think is important, because if you're young in this industry and you're trying to get out there, it is always wonderful to be to get a traditional deal if you get one that's honest. But for myself, I kept seeing it as a fail, because I was having to independently right. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until and I think I've told you this before, I think when I stopped worrying about the yardstick that is actually in the publishing and the gatekeeping, I was able to just tell great stories. And then whoever wanted to read those stories came out and enjoyed them, and it pushed me to.
Oh, you muted.
It has definitely been it's been an experience, but historical fiction, I think, is important. I saw in a group last week that it was an unpopular opinion because they don't want to read historical fiction. And I thought to myself, I can understand that. I can, because you're worried about what you're going to read. It's not so much that you don't like the author or what they're writing. You're worried. And with everything going on, your damn heart's broken enough. When you come to the story, you don't want to deal with that, right? So
Mhm.
I don't even think it's an unpopular opinion. I can't tell you how many people don't touch my books because they're afraid of them. And then when they do read them, they're like, oh, well, this is not what I thought it was going to be, right? But I don't
Mhm.
get offended because I understand that. And I don't think
Mhm.
the opinion is all that unpopular.
I get offended. I, I,
I
I,
know.
I get offended for y'all, because I just feel like, on some real shit, I just feel like sometimes the unpopular opinions need to stay in the group chat. And sometimes you just need to shut the fuck up.
Sometimes I'm on TikTok, you'd be surprised at things I see. But I will say, I had a discussion about a video I saw, and different things, and where people said this, and there was no hate in the group. It was just, man, I can't take anymore. And I wanted to say, you know what, this is not so unpopular. And I do understand. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm writing, for instance, when I was writing Ignite,
Hmm.
as I was writing at night and realized that to stop people from drinking, the government was poisoning liquor, and
Yeah.
people, girl, I stopped. I didn't write for 3 days
Mm.
because it's depressing.
Mm.
That's depressing. So that's why I didn't think the opinion was that unpopular. I do understand it. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just, like I said, I just think they don't think the unpopular part through. Um, because somebody's already thinking it,
Right.
and or done it. So maybe it's just me. At that point, when you say the unpopular opinion, I just feel like you're looking for attention, clickbait. I So if any of y'all on here, y'all do unpopular opinions, that's what I'm thinking about you. Sorry, sorry. It's not even an unpopular opinion with me. That's my opinion, for real. Just say it. Um, do you think readers are more receptive now to complex Black historical narratives than they were before?
I would almost think it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
When you have the Toni Morrisons and different things, and then you add in the romance novels where they address abuse and all of those things, and quite honestly, I think romance answers a lot of questions and gets and and gets, what's the word?
The point across.
Well, I think romance gets a bad rap, And I think
Mm.
that romance is important because
Hmm.
it's all part of keeping the world populated, all
Facts.
of it. And so, and I think it talks about, and while it may offer what people say the people in the book are too good, but maybe it's time we start striding towards some of that shit. Because there's definitely pee in the dating pool. So I
Mhm.
think
It is
I,
shit.
I,
It is shit. It's
I
way.
tried to go
It's shit.
with
It's shit. I'm happy I'm a married
pee.
motherfucker because woo,
I did try to say P. I did try. My daughter
girl.
said, "Can you be on your best behavior?" I said, "Okay, I
Well,
can
you
see
should have.
that."
You should have told your daughter a store don't give a fuck.
I did. I told her you gonna
I don't care. No, the dating pool is shit. No, God. I'm like I said, I'm glad I'm married. 'Cause Lord, I'll be a single bitch.
see.
For real. So, um,
Oh my!
how does um how does historical fiction function as cultural education, even when you're not trying to educate within Black literature?
I think what I found fascinating when I pick a period is how people lived. You
Mm,
know, if I'm old enough that I remember the milkman used to deliver milk.
mm,
So when I put that in a book, I had a young lady, I think she just recently did a video about the book I just did called Sweet is Taboo. And she
mm,
said, I didn't know what a porter was. And there are a lot of things that I look back and I'm like, huh, is that how they did that? So I
mm,
think even if you're just telling a story and you don't even pull in historical events, but you
mm,
just show how people lived, I find that to be interesting. How
mm,
they dressed, how they interacted with one another.
mm.
So I think that makes it, and I also think if writing historically, I think it also helps you to kind of figure out what's going on today too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It repeats itself. A lot of
Yes.
stuff that happened back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s are
Yeah.
now repeating themselves in
Yes.
this genre, in this era.
Yes. Yep.
It's just different font, but same goddamn thing.
That is the truth. It really is. It really is.
Do you
Mm.
see your work as part of a broader literary lineage?
I do. I
What?
do. I do see my work as part of that. I attempt to tell a good story. I
Mm,
attempt to be informative. I attempt to be entertaining. I intend for the book to be sexy. I
mm,
intend for the characters to be all the things that they would. And I want to think of myself as a historical romance writer, but not
mm,
really, because sometimes the things I tackle make it more historical fiction. And so
mm,
that was a hard pill for me to swallow because I thought I was a historical romance writer. And my daughter said, yeah, it's usually boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, not boy meets girl, burns down the plantation, says fuck all this shit. And so that's kind of historical fiction. I said, oh, well, okay.
mm. I'm hollering. How have publishing structures historically shaped which historical stories get visibility? You think?
Let me tell you, I wish I could answer that question a little better, but I've never been truly let in. So I can't tell you what happens on the traditional side. I've had one book deal. That's it. All my books are independently published. No one has found my books interesting enough to want to do them now. And you know what I have figured out? That the interest of the people tends to outweigh what the publishing houses think.
Mm,
For
yeah.
me. It may be different for other artists, but I can't really speak to traditional publishing because no one's been interested. I did have an agent,
Mm.
and as soon as my name came up, they was like, no.
What?
Yeah, no one's been interested. Just my regular readers and black women have shown the hell up. And so I've been out here publishing myself and I've been appreciative of it. And other authors have said,
Mhm.
I read a book by Joan Vassar and it has been great. Kennedy Ryan, Alexandria House. It's
Yeah.
just been several people who have read work by me and have come back and said, this was great. So, but mostly I've been vibing with the readers.
You know what? I'm gonna just keep whatever I was about to say to myself before I get my ass in trouble. Cause boy, I was about to say some shit, and I know that shit would have got back to somebody. Never mind. Never mind. But do you see parallels between the treatment of Black historical fiction and Black Southern Gothic narratives? Because both are different genres, but they both dive deep into Black culture.
Yes. I do. I would have to say, yeah. But you know what? Quite honestly, I see historical fiction as synonymous with all black writing, because
Mhm.
we sometimes, and I love this too. I love
Mhm.
when young black people just tell a story because we already have the burden of being black. And
Mhm.
so every time we come to a thing, our artists have to be responsible to also tell different things. I'm old, so when I
Mhm.
address things from I'm older, I see things, but I love when people just tell a story about he came to the house and
Mhm.
I fell in love with him, and the story unfolds from there. But I think that across the board, all of it is necessary because that's what I was saying earlier. I think the young black women who have come to the this industry and said I'm gonna publish myself independently have
Mhm.
impressed the shit out of me
Yeah.
because I can't do nothing but just be happy because they are stepping up to the plate and they're telling all kinds of stories. I just read Loving the Legend, and I was just thinking to myself, well, damn, this is a good damn story. You know, and so I read "Let Me Love You" by Alexandria House, Queen Move.
Mhm.
I remember by Kennedy Ryan. I remember thinking, damn, these people are just coming out and telling great stories. And
Mhm.
I'm growing up, and I read good books. They weren't books about us.
Facts. And if y'all wondering what I'm doing, I popped a pimple, and I just noticed it was bleeding a little bit. All right. So let me ask you, how do Black authors navigate or maintain narratives of ownership within historically white dominated genres that really are our own genre? Because I'm going to say this, and I know I'm finna piss somebody off, but it needs to be said. It's Black History Month. Move, bitch. Um, I I feel like everything gets so whitewashed
Yeah.
that people don't want to see our culture because they have to face the history in which their ancestors were a part of. So, with that being said,
Well, let me say, I have to say, I mean, no one wants to think that Mima was part of a lynching.
right,
So yeah,
or was
I
eating
do.
folks.
So I've even had friends that I've had that were not black who have asked me, well, do you think historical fiction is really right? And I said, so come on now. It's not right now because I'm doing it. Come on now.
Oh,
Come on now. You know. So I think in that instance you're going to always get pushback because you're telling stories that are not just stories that I know people think you just Google shit, but sometimes the older people hand shit right down. I'm sitting up here with a newspaper clipping from a uncle of mine that was lynched in Mississippi. This is not stuff that I'm Googling. Family members are like, hey, you're writing historically, let me give you this.
I feel like people forget that the oral tradition was a thing. The
It is a
oral
thing. It is a
Oral
thing.
tradition of our elders and the slave, our ancestors, they did oral tradition. They
Yes,
memorized every goddamn thing
that's
by
right.
survival tactics.
That's right.
And so when they passed it down to us, the problem was you motherfuckers don't listen. Y'all was trying to be in the streets.
Right. And the real truth of the matter is there was a lot of stuff that was handed down and talked about. And I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother was born 1917 in Mississippi. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my grandfather was born 1914 in Mississippi. You know, my on my father's side, my father's mother, her father was from Portugal. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. I am a black woman. We know that Portugal was heavy in the slave trade. So
Mm-hmm.
this is all things that are facts. So yeah. So getting handed down stories is a lot. But people say, well, what research did you do? Let me tell you. I wrote the book Sweet Honesty. I have a reader who is a retired nurse in Virginia. She's 81.
Mm-hmm.
After she read Sweet Honesty, she contacted me and said, and by the way, in case you need to know this, I grew up in Virginia where if two people of the same sex lived in a house together, they had to prove they were related. That's also how I get information.
Mm.
Because when older readers read my stuff, they come back and tell me, and you left this out and this and this. So Google is not, I couldn't rely on just that if I wanted to. But
Mm.
that's something for me to think about because here
Yeah.
she is, 81 years old. And a lot of my readers are both young and old.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a lot of stuff. I get people, young people, who tell me, hey, this is what my grandmother told me. When I wrote Sweet Honesty, one of my readers in the group had a green book with her great grandmother's
Ooh.
handwriting in it. And because there was a green book in this, she came. This young woman is younger than me. She came and told me this book made me think about that. I got that book. I have one. And then I had another lady tell me my uncle, his house was on the route for safe places for black people to stay.
Mm.
So I get a lot of information and word of mouth and hand me down. It doesn't only come from my family because now that I write and people pick up my books, people contact me all the time to say, this is what I knew. This is what I was told by my grandmother.
Mm-hmm. Damn. Because I sure have a whole book here that's been passed, but it's only passed down to the women in my family. I have a whole book up in here.
About stuff. And you don't get the family Bible because that's
Got
more
that too.
accurate.
I
That's
got
more
that too.
accurate than anything where they tell you who was born where. Yeah, yeah.
I got that too. So, all right. What historical or cultural narratives did you feel were missing when you was creating the Black series?
Oh, that's an easy question. I wanted not to write Gone with the Wind. So
Oh.
it was important for me to write a story where I was talking about people who were part of the resistance. And
Mm-hmm.
the whole series is part of the resistance.
It's given that term.
Yeah.
It
Mm-hmm.
is. It is.
Yeah.
So, how do you approach writing like bodily autonomy when our bodies didn't belong to us? If that makes sense to you, within a historical oppressive time, but not feeding into just trauma, but also revolution.
Well, one of the things, and that's a great statement, a great question, because when I stepped up to the plate, it was one, I had to lend the men the masculinity that was being taken from them in
Mm-hmm.
order, and the women the femininity that was being taken from them so that they can tell a I could tell a good story. And one of the things that was important was not just to make it fictional. I actually went out and followed people that were black, that were part of the resistance, and looked at their different stories and thought to myself, how can I make this real? How could I make black more real?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I had started out writing black in 2000 and put it down and didn't pick it back up till 2014. And so I kept feeling like something was missing. And when I discovered Nat Turner, it occurred to me that I can make Black his son, his fictional son, and move
Mm.
him forward in a resistance. And that is what I did. But ultimately, I had to also lend my characters dignity that is sometimes and most times not afforded us in this country.
Mm. So, what long term cultural impact do you hope the series have?
Well, one thing is that I would like to dispel the myth that it's that we were just people who laid down and took it.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was one thing. But in a story setting, I'm hoping that when a person sits down, they get a dose of reality, a dose of happiness. They get to
Mm-hmm.
learn something that I learned, and mostly, I hope they find the characters to be in love. And people ask me for the Black series, do you think that your sex scenes distract from the series? No, I don't. I don't think that. I think Black people and are beautiful. I think Black family is beautiful. I think Black orgasm is beautiful, and I'm not gonna shy away from it.
Right. I,
Sometimes all we had were each other, so I'm not gonna write around it. As
I,
if bondage would stop you from falling in love. It can't. We in bondage now. Shit.
man, on our backs. Um, I honestly, truthfully, I just feel like, oh God, all right. I just feel like some of y'all be reading, but y'all be skimming. Y'all, y'all read the surface and don't see what the subplot is underneath, and y'all see certain words and be like, oh my God, and really don't take in the whole plot of the story. I feel like y'all some people take books, whether historical fiction, contemporary, southern gothic, because those are three categories what in fantasy that is written when they're written by Black people. I'm gonna get in trouble. When they're written by Black people, it is always something. It is always uh why did you write this, or it's the plot wasn't plotting because I couldn't follow it because it was too descriptive, or it's
Right.
the sex is just too much sex.
I've had people tell me that the sex was that the book was vivid, but that the sex scenes were too descriptive. I can't write a vivid book and then turn around and try to not write vivid sex scenes. It doesn't make any sense. And to be honest with you, I enjoy writing about Black love. I don't feel ashamed of that, and I do get Black readers who say stuff. I had a Black reader just recently, in probably the last couple of weeks, who asked me something about anal sex, and I thought. So I said, you do realize that anal sex and oral sex were the first form of birth control, right? And so then we didn't have a lot of conversation. We moved on to the next thing. So yeah.
I know some of you bitches is taking it up the ass just like any other kinky ass bitch. I swear to God, y'all be playing like y'all motherfucking flowers around this hoe. Y'all be just irritating my fucking ass. Like, God damn. Uh this, this I don't even know how I got a podcast because this y'all bruh, y'all be killing me. Y'all be making my whole soul just want to reach out and just boo up y'all ass. I ain't never seen a bunch of complaining bitches. Anyway, I'm gonna go to the next question. God damn. Oh, so,
Oh God.
so why is documenting Black queer love historically important?
Because it's Black history.
Mm,
Because I think it's important for Black people to understand that this is still Black history. And we right now are in a place that we don't have time
mm.
at any point to turn loose our brethren over who they love. We got bigger fish to fry. and everybody, it's a right now it's a all hands on deck for us, and we
Facts.
don't have time to allow people. Let me tell you something. When I was writing Sweetest Taboo, I came across Executive Order 10450, and it talks about in 1953 how thousands of people lost their job, their government jobs, because they were thought to be homosexuals and communists. Right? This was signed by Dwight Eisenhower.
Mm,
And then I looked up the person who wrote it. It's a white gay man.
mm.
So here you are, gay, and you actually filling out something to oppress other gay people.
Because
And
they
here
was
you
tap
are
dancing.
as a black, right, and here you are as a black gay man in the middle of this shit. So this would, Sweetest Taboo was important to write, because I'm a romance writer, and it
Mm,
didn't really matter who was in love. I'm writing a romance.
facts.
I'm sad that I had to say it was a gay romance, because this is just a romance.
I mean, you believe that. I believe that. And I'm sure a
Right,
majority of people believe that. But
right,
it's in the black culture.
right,
Black people.
right,
Black
right.
people. Some of y'all are so quick to equate masculinity with sexuality,
That is actually true.
femininity with sexuality,
That is
and
actually
not
true.
understand that they have nothing to do with each other.
They don't. They don't.
Because,
But you got to keep in mind that from writing this book, that's what taught me that,
yeah.
because I didn't understand that. And
Mm,
that is actually why I wrote the characters to be masculine, because I was trying to stay away from stereotypes.
mm.
Because I hate to say, because you find a man to be feminine does not mean he's gay either. And
No.
I know women who are not feminine and they're not gay. They're not
Well,
lesbians.
I'm
So,
bisexual.
right.
But,
I do get it. Yeah, I do
yeah.
get so it's a lot to learn. But what is also important, when I wrote this story, this was still Black History. That's why I released the book this
Mm,
month. This is still Black History. This is
yeah.
still Black people finding a second reason to be oppressed.
Yeah.
Same way it is to be Black and a woman.
Because you talking about queers, and James Baldwin was queer.
Right.
Zora Neale Hurston was queer. Maya
Right.
Angelou was queer. Malcolm X
Right.
was queer.
That's right.
And yet, y'all equate them with femininity,
Right.
masculinity.
And let's be honest, you have, and the people who are running around trying to get rid of queer people, J. Edgar Hoover, queer, passing for
Queer
white,
and black.
and passing for white. Because I
Right.
just said that. I just said that. Yeah, yeah.
A whole black man. Damn. So, how do you research relationships that were historically hidden and undocumented, especially with poly and with queer relationships? How do you do research that sometimes it's like underneath the damn fucking crust of the earth to find the information?
Well, let me tell you something. I turned around, excuse me, and looked at Black people now. But one of the things that got me for the polyamorous one, and I think I've said this in interviews before, but a million years ago when I was in middle, in high school, I mean, I was a home attendant in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And I did this. I worked while in high school. I worked on Saturday and Sunday and went back to school on Monday. But because it was 2 full days, it was considered 48 hours. So
Mm-hmm.
then I worked only Saturday, and then I went to school all week. The woman who I was the home attendant to, she was born in 1893. I'm 1819, so I can't even appreciate that I'm actually with a person who was born in 1893. So at the time, it was about 1985, 86. She's about 93 years old. So she was pressing up against 100
Mm-hmm.
and had all her faculties. And this
Mm-hmm.
woman, she said to me, um, that her she had 17 brothers and sisters. And I remember saying, your mother didn't have no 17 kids, did she? Because I'm young. I didn't, you know. So she said no. She said my father had eight children with my mother, and the woman next door had like nine children with my mother. And we lived as a big family. She was from Barbados.
Mm.
And she said so the first time I had polyamorous explained to me, it was from a woman born in 1893. This
Wow.
is this is a pass down.
Wow.
She herself had five boys. Nope, she had six girls and I think four boys. And she was just an absolute wonderful person. And I don't think I truly began to appreciate it. I'm sitting in the house one day and all of a sudden this damn sister wife shit come on. I'm like, the fuck?
Mm.
So, but when she was telling it to me, I remember saying to her, I wouldn't put up with that shit. And she said, this is a man's world. That's what she said to me.
Mm.
So the first time I had polyamory explained to me, the person that explained it to me was 93. And
Damn.
she said they didn't want for nothing. Her father broke his neck and paid for everybody. And we said mommy to both women.
Wow.
My mouth was wide open. I was like, the hell? And even still, I remember thinking, that's the old days. I get older, you'd be surprised the number of people who live polyamorously now.
I'm trying to get my husband to do it. You know, and I just want Trevante Rose. That's all. That's we could live in
I
one big
I
happy
do
family.
too. I'm willing to share him. I'm willing to share him. Yeah, I do too. Shoot.
So, what responsibilities do authors carry when representing historically marginalized identities?
Oh, it's a beast. I am not a black gay man, so
Mm-hmm.
I had to really do some real research. I love black men.
Mm-hmm.
So their sexuality is not a problem for me because I just love black men. I
Mm-hmm.
love our brothers. So for me, I had to step into writing a gay romance the same way I would write a heterosexual one. And
Mm-hmm.
I just made the characters as lovable, and I had to remember I'm writing romance. That's all I have to remember. And I had to step away from a lot of the bullshit that I was taught as a straight person to
Mm-hmm.
learn that that this is love. I had to actually open up my mind and figure out where I had misconceptions
Mm-hmm.
about, and I remember one article I read. The young man was bisexual. He was living with a woman, and he was saying that he wanted to have. He felt like there was just something missing in his sex life with her, but he was afraid to go out and get it because he was in love with her, so he was afraid to lose her. So he sat down and discussed with her. This was a very open article. I was impressed. He sat down and said, these are the things I need. And he worried that he ruined the relationship because it took her several days to come back to him to say, I'll try it. And he said what made him love her more is that she just showed up with the strap on and said, let's try this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he felt like he got some things that he needed from the person that he wanted because he was able to say, this is what I need from
Mm-hmm.
her. So this was, and I think the honesty of it all, because I think that's something that we're missing relationship wise. And I think that's also why we as women and black women in particular, for the sake of this conversation, love romance,
Mm-hmm.
because those characters actually say what they mean and mean what they say. A lot of the men are lovable because they're written by women. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And some men could stand to read this shit that they think is just garbage, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I think that I learned a lot, I realized that a man can bottom in a relationship with a female.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. I think as I'm getting older, I'm learning some shit. I'm looking around for a damn bottom shit. Listen, I love black men. How about that?
Yeah, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So how does a series contribute to expanding the historical narratives of Black intimacy and ownership of sexuality and ownership of choice?
Well, one of the things that I think black people have to get away from is allowing white people to own their intimacy, to
Mm,
set the standard for what their intimacy is, and to place value on their intimacy. Once you start looking at your intimacy as something that you own and it's yours to share, then you begin to not be ashamed of it and enjoy it. And a lot of what I know now,
mm-hmm.
if I knew it then,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been in a different place.
Mm,
I
mm,
would have been in a different place. So what I have done in my writing, because even as an author, you'd be surprised the number of black people that come and try to shame you because you've written a sex scene. I'm
mm,
owning it. I'm owning it. And
mm,
I think as long as we are in a society that allows, where we as black people allow other people to put a price tag on our sexuality, on
mm,
our intimacy, and what is a standard for what is supposed to be good living while the damn country is embroiled in Epstein, I don't know.
mm,
I don't know.
mm. Well, you know, there's so much to say on that.
We're going to
Our,
move on.
our priorities are just fucked.
Right.
Um,
Right.
where do you personally place the origins of Black historical fiction?
You mean in terms of people telling a good story set in the past, right? That's what you
Mm-hmm.
mean. I would have to say that it really comes from word of mouth.
Mm,
It really comes from word of mouth. We have always been storytellers, and
mm,
unfortunately, we've had to be them because no
mm,
one is around who wants to write down what's going on with us. And I think we've done a damn good job maintaining that from word of mouth. I'm telling you that it started off with just my family, but my family has grown in terms of my readers and my
mm,
experience with people who just walk up to me and tell me shit that I otherwise would not know,
mm,
you know. And I have to say the woman that I was home attending for, I was making $10 an hour. I thought I was rich as a 58-year-old woman. What made me rich is the time I spent with her. I had never
mm,
even heard of polyamory, and of course it wasn't called that, but I had never heard that three people could be in a relationship or more. I had never
mm,
heard that. So that was something that I heard from somebody who lived in the century before me.
mm. Damn. That's and that kind of leads into my next question because how do oral tradition storytelling influence modern Black historical narratives?
I think what has that it influences us now
Mm-hmm.
because we're looking at them trying to dismantle Black history.
Girl, dismantle,
Yep.
demolish.
I mean, if you look at the King family and all that they have lost for us to be here is sad.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think it influences how we handle it and all of those things now
Mm-hmm.
because they're attempting to dismantle history.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important that parents and elders
Yeah.
tell, even if they're telling something that happened in the 80s, tell the kids now so they can
Right.
keep it in mind, because a lot of our elders that are were born in the 50s and 40s and 30s are gone,
Yeah.
you know so if we literally sit down and start telling our kids, our cousins, our nephews, and whoever the stories from the 70s, the stories from the 60s, the stories from the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, they'll keep it going
That's
because
right.
they're trying to censor everything else, but they can't
Right.
censor you in your household.
That's right. That's right.
So I think we have an opportunity because that's where I'm saying history repeating itself.
Right.
It's going to have to be through oral storytelling to
Yes.
get it out.
And that has not changed. And I
Yeah,
have to say, I agree. You're absolutely right.
yeah. So, What do you think some historical works gain? What no? Why do you think some historical works gain recognition after they have passed on?
I think it's a combination of things. We live in a society that doesn't like to give excellence, true excellence, a recognition, and
Mm,
to posthumously give it is to deprive the person that worked hard on it.
mm,
That's what I think. And so when I look at those type of things, I have to say to myself, because I just said to Alex not too long ago, I said, "Shit, I think my grandkids are going to be enjoying the Black series
mm-hmm.
more than I'm going to be enjoying it."
So, the how does a discomfort influence literary canon formation in regards to um like we was talking about earlier, how people would say, I'm not comfortable with this or I'm not comfortable with that. How does the discomfort influence people to move forward with saying, you're uncomfortable? Let me go see what this is about.
I have found that when people come out and say, "Well, I think the book was too sexy," or this, that, and the third, I think it makes people come and see what I'm talking about. How
Mm-hmm.
you can, and many authors, what they're talking about. But let's be honest, you showed up to a romance. Expect some sex. You don't want to see that. There's always something else. There's always documentaries.
So, what makes historical fiction narration particularly difficult and challenging? Because you have audiobooks,
Yeah,
ma'am, and for reading those characters is one thing, but hearing them characters is
yeah,
another.
yeah.
How challenging is that for you to pick narrators to go in there and take those words and go into the booth and record it?
It let me tell you, it was a lot of years before I thought I could get the Black series up on Audible, and I think many people have heard me say it because Jacoby Diem showed up to the plate in
Mm,
this series and did a wonderful, wonderful job. Um, and I always hope that my work is the kind of work that the narrator can get into. Picking a narrator is sometimes you're getting samples of their writings, and I had a few samples of the Swoop series, and the narrators were good. They just didn't fit what I thought or what I saw. And so when I picked Sean Krisden, I think what I loved about him is that he just came to the story and did it.
yeah.
And when I listened back, and so many people have come and said to me, I listened to Sean Krisden with the Sweet series, and I've never heard him like this. It was just so good. So it can be hard, but I've been very lucky in getting, because we do have very talented narrators, and
Mm-hmm.
I've just been very lucky to be able to write a story. But now that I understand the Audible side, sometimes when I write a book, I'm already thinking about what the narrator is going to sound like. And it
Mm,
also, now for the reader experience, it also determines where I place certain things and whose point of view it comes from.
mm,
Because, like, for instance, unfortunately, Francine, it was a book I had already written, but the reason why I had it broke down into a true duet, because there were things that I wanted only to come from Jacoby Dean's mouth. And so when I
mm,
write now, I also consider that I'm going to bring this up on Audible, and this scene might better be said from a male point of view. This scene
mm,
might better be said from a female point of view. And so I've had to go in and switch scenes around as I'm writing them, because I'm also hearing it, because I've become more experienced on that side. But it's just really a matter of just finding somebody. And I also write awkwardly in the third person. I don't always write dual, where this person and then this person and then this person. So I usually get someone who doesn't get tired quick either of my foolishness. As poor Jacoby Diem, when he picked up book 3 in the Black series, stories. He said, "Could you send me a word count?" And I said, "Yeah." And I sent him 171,000 words. He sent back, "Is this a typo?" No.
Oh,
So by the time he finished, it was 20 hours.
yeah, damn.
Hmm. And he
That,
showed up to the plate. Sean Krisden showed up to the plate. When I listened to the Sweet series, the first book, I remember thinking, this is not going to, he doesn't deserve an email. I probably need to send him a message and say, "Could you call me?" And so he did. And I said, "I just wanted to say to you that this was fabulously done. And I felt like you needed to hear more than or to see more than just an email." So
yeah,
I'm always thankful for the people. I did Love in Africa. Wesley Siobhan showed up, and she had so many voices for the female characters. I was shaking my head. I mean, she's a powerhouse. So
yeah,
I did Nicole Small, and
mm,
her and Jacoby, and unfortunately Francine. There's a scene where like maybe six or seven people are talking, and you can't tell it's just two people doing it.
mm,
It's so I've been very lucky in picking narrators and listening to uh, samples and figuring out who's good for me.
yeah. So, how, what conversations about Black history do you think literature still avoids when it comes to historical fiction?
What conversations do?
Mm,
Huh. I think a lot of what I think I probably can't even get a list together. It's so long
that
because it's not even just historical fiction. We still live in a place who's trying to act like slavery didn't exist. So I mean, when you step up to the plate, how could you think Gone with the Wind is a classic, but any other story written by a black person is just us complaining?
facts, facts, facts. You see how they doing sinners?
Yes.
Facts.
And I want to say this is also a thing. It's a little disheartening when I see black people who see white success and think it's successful, and then see black success and think it's demonic.
Girl, girl, that's because some of you niggas never got y'all ass whooped. Now, it really, some of you niggas ain't got y'all ass whooped. Cause what, bruh? And the motherfuckers that y'all are thinking is success are the same motherfuckers in the Epstein files. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, what research practices do you recommend for new historical fiction writers?
Oh, I think that I start off asking Google a question, and then
Mm-hmm.
from there, I'm all over the place. I find articles that have been written about it. I find people who have had family members with these experiences. The book three took place in Washington, D.C. in 1861. I found at the Smithsonian. I found an actual inner map of the White House as to what it looked like with when Lincoln was president. Even in my Black series, Lincoln is assassinated at the end of the series. I actually found a daguerreotype online of him after he was shot, laying in the bed. So it's a deep dive. But here's the thing: when you start looking, you have to be a dog after a bone. You cannot let up. You cannot let up. This because when you're writing historically,
Mm-hmm.
people go fact check on you.
Facts.
They
Yeah.
go fact check on you. Sometimes they come back, well, this ain't true. It is true. Sometimes they think they know, they don't. But they fact check. And so the more you know, also just the better of a story you tell.
Mm.
the better placement of your characters and all of that. It only the research enhances, but I don't let up. I'm like the Smithsonian. Sometimes I have to sit down and watch a whole documentary on the History Channel, and then I
Mm,
gotta go fact check the History Channel because again, it is the History Channel. So it's a lot of shit.
damn. Whew. So before we get out of here, what new things or historical periods interest you moving forward, and what do we have to look forward to? Because I'm waiting for the '80s ones.
So I am finishing up Ignite. So that's where I am now. And I am also trying to finish up a novella that is a prequel to Unfortunately Francine that I'm
Mhm.
thinking is going to be out in either March or early April.
Okay.
So I have those things to look forward to. And of course, Ignite takes place in the 1920s. So we're
Mhm.
rolling out of 1927. And I have like a couple of things that I have in mind, and so I'm just trying to figure out where I am next. But right now I'm dealing with Sedition, which is book 2 for Ignite, and I'm finishing up the prequel to Unfortunately Francine.
Okay. So what book events are you going to be at?
So I am going to be at the Writers Retreat Wine with Authors
Hmm.
in June of this year. I will be at the Hollywood event in 2027, and I will be in Detroit in 2027 in August with
I'll see you there.
with ICU Reading Group, and I
Hmm.
believe I might even be in Vegas in 2027 with the House Party.
Okay. Okay. What? I'm shocked. You outside?
Listen, everybody's tired of my shit. So I said, I'm going to come outside and I'm going to stand around for 2 minutes and then I'm going to go on back in the house.
Y'all, she do not come outside. So I had to catch myself. Wait a minute, she named off like five goddamn things.
Yeah, yeah.
So where can we get your books and your audiobooks? Do you have a website?
So I do. It is Joan Vassar Writer. .com, and that is all the books are on Amazon and Audible, and you could always place an order with me through the website, and I will get you a signed copy and show you how to pay.
Okay, okay. So I'm gonna do your outro and we're gonna get out of here.
Okay.
All right. So, Black historical fiction is more than storytelling, it is a cultural memory preservation. And authors like Joan help ensure that Black emotional and relational history is not lost, simplified, or erased. Thank you for contributing to that legacy. And I love you so much. I'm happy you're going to be outside because now I get to see you in person. But as I always say, I am your host, Storm, Black Girl Tired Book Talk. And I always say this: stay love, stay loud, and stay black on motherfucking purpose, especially now.
Oh my goodness. I had a good time. Thank you for having me.
Always, always. I'm gonna I'm gonna give you a breather for like a year, and then I'm gonna come back. Joe, I need you to
Okay.
come back.
I'll have more work by then.
Yeah, so next time we talk, I'm just be talking specifically about the books. But
Okay.
I just had to get you on for Black History because our conversations be really enlightening and deep and shit. I learn something every time I talk to you. So I just wanted to, put it out there. You know what I'm saying? But you have
Thank
a